My beloved child. Pause here. Do not let your fingers carry you past this moment, because what you are about to hear was not placed before you by accident. Something shifted behind closed doors, something you could not see, and heaven has been waiting for the right moment to reveal it. Someone special finally spoke about you to their family. Not casually. Not in passing. They opened a part of their heart they had protected for a very long time, and what happened next changed the atmosphere in that room. You may have felt it without understanding it. A strange heaviness lifting from your chest. A sudden thought of them appearing in your mind. A quiet feeling that something was moving, even though nothing around you seemed different. That feeling was not empty. While you were wondering whether you had been forgotten, your name was being spoken with emotion. While you were questioning whether the connection mattered to them, they were trying to explain to the people closest to them why you have become impossible to ignore. Listen carefully, because the conversation did not begin the way you might imagine. It did not begin with confidence. It began with silence. Someone in their family noticed that they had changed. They noticed how this person became distant whenever certain questions were asked. They noticed how they looked at their phone and then quickly turned the screen away. They noticed the unfinished sentences, the sudden smiles, the long pauses, and the way their eyes carried a story they were not telling. For days, perhaps longer, the family had sensed that someone had entered their heart. Yet every time they tried to ask, this person found a way to avoid the truth. But avoidance can only protect a secret for so long. That day, the questions returned. The room was ordinary, but the moment was not. There were familiar voices, familiar walls, and familiar faces, yet something unseen had gathered there. Heaven was pressing gently against a door that fear had kept closed. Your special person could feel it. They knew that if they walked away again, they would be walking away from more than a conversation. They would be walking away from the truth of what they felt for you. And this time, they stayed. Their family asked why they had been so distracted. Someone wanted to know why they had been carrying so much emotion alone. Another person asked whether there was someone they had not told the family about. At first, your special person tried to laugh it away. They looked down. They searched for safer words. But then something unexpected happened. Your name rose inside them before they could stop it. It was not spoken loudly. It did not need to be. The moment your name entered that room, the energy changed. Everyone became still, because the way they said it revealed more than the name itself. Their voice carried tenderness. It carried uncertainty. It carried the weight of someone who had rehearsed this truth many times in private but had never dared to say it aloud. One family member leaned forward and asked, "Who is this person to you?" That question struck deeper than they expected. For so long, your special person had tried to define the connection using smaller words. A friend. Someone important. Someone they cared about. Someone they could not stop thinking about. But none of those words felt honest enough anymore. The truth had grown beyond every safe explanation. They paused, and in that pause they remembered everything. They remembered the first time something about you felt different. They remembered a conversation that stayed with them long after it ended. They remembered the way you made them feel seen without demanding that they perform. They remembered your kindness, your strength, and the way your presence seemed to touch a place inside them that no one else had reached. But they also remembered the distance. They remembered the moments when fear made them pull away. They remembered the things they wanted to say but did not. They remembered how often they chose silence, hoping the feeling would become easier to control. Yet instead of fading, it deepened. Instead of disappearing, you became more present in their thoughts. And so, with their family watching, they finally said something they had never said so clearly before. They admitted that you mattered to them more than they had allowed anyone to know. My child, this confession was not easy. Their voice trembled because opening the heart before family can feel more frightening than opening it before the world. Family knows where fear hides. Family remembers old wounds. Family understands the patterns a person tries to conceal. Your special person knew that once they spoke honestly, they could no longer pretend that you were merely a passing thought. Someone in the room asked how long they had felt this way. The answer surprised them. Your special person did not give an exact date. They spoke about a gradual awakening. They explained that at first, they did not understand what was happening. They thought they could ignore the connection. They believed time or distance would weaken it. But every attempt to move on only revealed how deeply you had affected them. They confessed that even during ordinary moments, thoughts of you would appear. A familiar song. A certain phrase. A place they passed. A quiet evening when the world became still. You were connected to memories they had never intentionally created, and yet those memories had become some of the strongest in their heart. The family listened, but not everyone reacted the same way. One person smiled gently, as though they had known all along. Another looked concerned, not because they disliked you, but because they understood how vulnerable this person had become. Someone else remained silent, studying every word. That silence made your special person nervous, because they could not tell whether they were being understood or judged. Then came the question they feared most. Does this person feel the same way? The room became quiet again. Your special person looked away. They wanted to answer confidently, but the truth was more complicated. They spoke about uncertainty. They spoke about missed chances, mixed signals, and words that had not yet been exchanged. They admitted that sometimes they were afraid they had waited too long. They wondered whether their silence had made you believe they did not care. They feared that their hesitation had pushed you farther away than they ever intended. But then they said something that revealed the depth of what they had been carrying. They said, "Even if I do not know what happens next, I cannot keep pretending this person means nothing to me." Those words changed everything. Until that moment, the family may have believed this was only attraction, curiosity, or a temporary attachment. But now they understood. This was not about a fleeting emotion. Your special person was not speaking about you because they were bored or lonely. They were speaking because holding the truth inside had become more painful than risking what might happen after it was revealed. One family member asked what made you so different. Your special person took a breath. They spoke about the way you carry strength even when you are hurting. They described a softness in you that does not make you weak, but powerful. They said you notice things other people miss. You hear what is hidden beneath words. You understand emotions that others rush past. They admitted that being seen by you frightened them at first because you seemed to recognize parts of them they had spent years hiding. They spoke of your patience, but they also acknowledged that your patience should not be mistaken for endless tolerance. They said you have given more understanding than many people would have given. You waited through uncertainty. You tried to make sense of silence. You carried questions you should never have been forced to carry alone. And then, before the family could respond, your special person admitted something even more vulnerable. They said they were afraid they had hurt you. That confession did not come easily. It came with a heaviness that had been building for a long time. They described moments when they wanted to reach out but allowed fear to take control. They described how pride, confusion, family expectations, and old emotional wounds had influenced their choices. They did not blame those things. They simply admitted that they had let them become walls. Someone in the family asked why they had not told you all of this directly. Your special person had no easy answer. They said they were afraid of being rejected. They were afraid of arriving too late. They were afraid that once they revealed everything, they would lose the little connection that remained. But beneath every excuse was a deeper fear. They were afraid of being fully known and still not chosen. My child, do not rush past this truth. The person you believed might not care was struggling with the possibility that they cared too much. The person whose silence confused you was fighting emotions they did not know how to express. This does not erase the pain their silence may have caused, but it reveals that the silence was never proof of emptiness. The family began to understand that the real conflict was not whether this person felt something for you. The real conflict was whether they would find the courage to act on it. One relative spoke gently. They reminded your special person that love hidden too long can become regret. They said that waiting for perfect certainty is often another form of fear. They asked a simple question: what are you hoping will happen? They admitted to their family that they did not know whether you were still waiting, whether you had moved forward, or whether your heart had become tired of uncertainty. They said they could feel that you had changed. There was a time when your energy reached toward them freely. Now, even from a distance, they sensed that you had become more protective of your peace. And they were right. Something inside you has changed. You have begun to understand that love should not require you to abandon yourself. You have started recognizing the difference between patience and self-neglect. You may still care deeply, but you are no longer willing to chase clarity from someone committed to confusion. Heaven has been strengthening you in silence. Every unanswered question forced you to look inward. Every delay taught you that your value does not depend on someone else's readiness. Every night you wondered what you meant to them became part of a greater awakening. You were not being punished. You were being prepared to receive truth without losing yourself inside it. Your special person's family sensed this too, even though they had never met you or did not know you well. Through the way this person spoke, they understood that you were not someone who could be approached carelessly. You had already endured enough uncertainty. Any next step would have to be honest. Then the conversation took an unexpected turn. One family member asked whether there had been someone else influencing the situation. Your special person became still. The question exposed another layer they had not planned to reveal. There had been voices around them. Advice. Opinions. Warnings. Some people told them to forget you. Others insisted the connection was too complicated. Someone may have suggested that choosing you would create tension, change plans, or force difficult conversations. Your special person listened to those voices because they were not yet strong enough to trust their own heart. But none of those voices could silence what they felt. They tried to follow practical advice. They tried to convince themselves that the easiest path was the wisest path. They attempted to bury the feeling beneath routine, responsibility, or distraction. Yet every time they imagined a future in which you were completely absent, something inside them resisted. That was when they realized the truth. They did not fear that loving you would ruin their life. They feared that failing to act might leave them wondering about you for the rest of it. When they said this, the family could no longer treat the conversation lightly. Someone who had remained silent finally spoke. Their words were measured, and everyone listened. They said, "Then you need to decide whether this is real enough to fight your fear." Your special person looked up. Not fight the family. Not fight the world. Fight the fear. Because fear had been the true obstacle from the beginning. Fear of timing. Fear of judgment. Fear of rejection. Fear of making the wrong choice. Fear of becoming emotionally exposed. Every other problem had grown larger because fear was feeding it. The family did not give them permission to love you. They gave them something more important, a mirror. They made your special person see that they could no longer claim confusion while refusing to face the truth. They could no longer say they did not know what to do when their heart had been repeating the same answer. They could no longer hide behind circumstances without accepting that silence was also a choice. My child, this is where the atmosphere changed again. Your special person began speaking more openly than they had intended. Once the first truth was released, the rest followed. They admitted that they had imagined conversations with you. They had composed messages and deleted them. They had opened your profile, looked at your name, and wondered whether reaching out would heal something or reopen a wound. They confessed that there were nights when they almost contacted you. One night, especially, they came close. Their fingers hovered over the words. They had written more than a simple greeting. It was a message filled with honesty, but fear made them erase it before sending. They told themselves they would try again when the timing felt safer. But the timing never felt safe. Because courage rarely arrives as complete comfort. Sometimes courage is a trembling hand choosing truth anyway. A family member asked what the deleted message had said. Your special person hesitated. Then, quietly, they revealed part of it. They had written that they were sorry for making you question your place in their life. They had written that distance had not removed the feeling. They had written that they often wondered whether you knew how deeply you had affected them. And there was one more sentence, a sentence they almost could not repeat aloud. They had written, "I do not know how to explain this, but a part of me still believes we are not finished." The family went silent. Those words carried more than hope. They carried recognition. Something in your special person had always sensed that the story between you had not reached its final chapter. Even during the longest silence, the connection felt unresolved. Not because every relationship is meant to continue, but because truth had not yet been given the chance to speak. The family began asking more direct questions. Were they ready to apologize without making excuses? Were they ready to hear your truth, even if it was painful? Were they ready to respect your boundaries? Were they ready to prove through action what they had only carried in thought? These questions mattered because feeling deeply is not enough. Love must become honesty. Longing must become courage. Regret must become changed behavior. Your special person was being confronted with the difference between missing you and being ready for you. At first, they struggled. They admitted that they wanted another chance, but wanting is easy. They wanted to be understood, but had they truly tried to understand what you experienced? They wanted you to trust them, but had they created safety? They wanted the connection to return, but were they prepared to return differently? The room held them accountable. And strangely, instead of making them retreat, it strengthened them. For the first time, they were not alone with the confusion. The truth was outside of them now. It had been witnessed. Their family knew your name. They knew the feelings. They knew the fear. The secret could no longer hide in the shadows and grow into something larger than reality. One person in the family said, "You keep talking about what might go wrong. But what if telling the truth is the one thing that finally makes something right?" That sentence entered their heart. Something shifted behind their eyes. They realized they had spent so much time preparing for rejection that they had never allowed themselves to prepare for honesty. They had imagined every painful outcome, but not the possibility that you might simply want the truth. Not a grand promise. Not a dramatic declaration. Just the truth. The truth that you mattered. The truth that they were afraid. The truth that their silence did not mean indifference. The truth that they had allowed too much time to pass. The truth that they did not want to keep living as though the connection had meant less than it did. My child, perhaps you have prayed for this. Perhaps you asked heaven to reveal what was hidden. Perhaps you said, "If this person cares, let them become honest. If they do not, give me the strength to let go." Your prayer was heard. But heaven's answer is not always immediate reunion. Sometimes the answer begins with exposure. The heart must be exposed to itself before it can be offered truthfully to another. Your special person had to speak to their family because saying your name aloud was part of confronting what they had denied. The conversation continued longer than anyone expected. At one point, someone asked whether your special person believed you were meant to be in their life. They did not use certainty carelessly. They did not claim to know every detail of the future. Instead, they said something quieter and more powerful. They said that meeting you changed them. Before you, they had accepted certain emotional patterns as normal. They were comfortable avoiding difficult conversations. They believed vulnerability made them weak. They thought love should fit neatly into plans and expectations. But knowing you disturbed that old version of them, you made them question what they truly wanted. You made them see where fear had been controlling them. You awakened a longing not only for connection, but for authenticity. They told their family that even if the path had been confusing, they could not deny that you had become part of their spiritual and emotional awakening. You forced them, without even trying, to look at the parts of themselves they had neglected. One relative smiled and said, "Then perhaps this person did not come into your life to be forgotten." The word stayed in the room. Your special person's expression changed. There was hope, but also responsibility. Because if you were not meant to be forgotten, they had to stop treating the connection like something they could endlessly postpone. The family asked what they planned to do next. This was the moment everything had been leading toward. Your special person looked at their phone. For a brief second, they imagined contacting you immediately. Their heart raced. But they did not want to send another uncertain message. They did not want to offer half-truths. They wanted to speak in a way that honored what they had finally admitted. So they made a decision. They said they would reach out, but not before becoming clear about what they wanted to say. They would not approach you only because they felt lonely in that moment. They would not return asking you to soothe their guilt. They would come with honesty, accountability, and a willingness to hear whatever you needed to say. The family supported this, but one person offered a warning. Do not wait so long that courage becomes another excuse. Your special person nodded. They knew the warning was true. Preparation could not become another hiding place. There would never be a perfect sentence. There would never be a moment without risk. If they continued waiting for certainty, they might lose the chance to speak while your heart was still willing to listen. Then something happened that no one expected. A phone on the table lit up. Your special person glanced at it and froze. The family noticed the sudden change in their face. Someone asked what was wrong, but they did not answer. Their eyes remained fixed on the screen, as though the conversation had somehow summoned the very truth they were discussing. For one suspended moment, the room disappeared around them. There was a name on the screen. A name connected to you. But it was not exactly what they expected. The notification was not a direct message from you. It came through another person, someone who knew something about your life that your special person had not yet heard. The message was brief, but the first few words were enough to drain the color from their face. Their family leaned closer. Your special person read it once. Then again. And when they finally looked up, the fear in their eyes had transformed into urgency, because the message suggested that something in your world had changed, and unless they acted now, the opportunity they had been afraid to take might disappear before they ever reached you.